Hey guys, how's it going? So, fellow YouTube van dweller, Static Camper Van, put a video out very recently on fear of living in a camper van. And I thought it was a good topic. I'm going to address that as well, but it kind of inspired me to make this video. When you make a lot of videos, you kind of run out of topics. Essentially, I'm not going to really talk about the fear of living in a camper van. I'm going to talk about fear of change. And that really is what Static Camper Van, he mentioned that, and I think that's the heart of it. He said pardon my gloves, it's cold today, and I'm in a cold van. He said his roommate mentioned really it's about a fear of change, and that really nails it. Making a transition from a regular apartment, condo, or whatever, into a camper van, or in a van period, is definitely takes some getting used to. It took me about 3 months before I really settled into the groove. I moved into my van in July of 2015. And now today is December 7th, 2016. So around a year and a half. And, now I'm really used to it. And it's a different way of living. Let's just put it that way. In the beginning, my situation is not the same as most people's some people's, because not only was I moving into a van, but I was moving away from my kids and getting divorced, leaving my ex-wife and the kids. So that was anything negative, like my opinion of the emotional part of it is kind of skewed or obscured because of the part of the divorce. Now, I had no qualms about leaving the wife. I know it was the right thing to do, and I really didn't have any emotional problems with leaving her at all. But with the kids, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in terms of emotions. I'm not really a super emotional person. That was one of her many complaints against me. It's that I'm not emotional enough. But leaving my kids is really, really hard to do. And I'm very fortunate that I get to see them like 5 days a week right now. So the transition to living in a van versus a condo or apartment, there's a number of things. Number one, you have to think about water. You have to think about a bathroom, and you need to think about cooking. Those are the three main essentials. If it's the winter time, you need to think about heat. If it's the summer, you need to think about cooling things down. So, but keeping the cooling and the heating out of it, basically you need to worry about your toilet situation, water, and cooking. And all that stuff is not that difficult to figure out, but it takes getting used to, just going through the idea that, I got to get water. For me right now, I'm basically doing it every other day, and I just get 2 or 4 liters at a time, and I don't really worry about it too much. But I would like to make it so I have a larger water reservoir. And I had ideas I have a 10-liter container in my van, but I never fill it. And partly is just a convenience thing. I can just bring a 2-liter bottle around with me and just fill it wherever I am, and that's what I usually do. 90% of the time, that's what I do. But I do like the idea of, in this Connect that I'm building right now, having like a large 10-liter container, and then just pulling up somewhere where there's a hose that I can disattach and attach a food grade hose that you can use for water that's meant for humans, and fill up my 10-liter tank and drive off, instead of like what I have been doing is using the 10-liter container and then actually lugging it around, and that's just not practical, I don't think. I guess you could do it, but I think it's easier just to pull the car up to the hose and fill it there. Now, I know some people will use a hose that's just a gas station kind of a hose, and you got to be very careful about that, because a lot of people would probably stick that hose right into their radiator area, and guess what's in there? Coolant and antifreeze, which is poisonous. So you don't really want to be sticking a hose in something in your water container that has antifreeze, even if it's small amounts. I still don't feel comfortable with that personally. So what I'll do is I'll use a separate hose that'll be my hose, and I'm just going to take the gas station hose off, or wherever I am. I know a couple hoses around here that I can use, or a couple water spouts, I should say, that I can use, and do it that way. And today we are having a burrito for dinner. Yum yum. But once you figure out the water situation and the toilet and the ice thing, getting used to it, that's a big part of it. Another big part of it is just getting used to the idea, how do I put this? I want to say of being homeless, but it's not the same. Like, when you're parked on the side of the road and you hear traffic going by, and you're in a van instead of an apartment with thick concrete or heavy duty walls or whatever, it's a different feeling. It's definitely different, and it took me quite a while to get used to, but I'm used to it now. So how does all that translate to fear of change? There's a point where you just gotta do it. When I bought this current van and it cost me $10,400, that's the most money I've ever had at one time in my life. I've never been really a financially well-off person. I have enough money to get by, and I've never gone without food and stuff like that, but I've never been really, I've never taken vacations at the drop of a hat and spent, $3,000. I've never done that, and I don't think that I ever will. Who knows? But, like spending 10 grand on a car, and I wasn't really sure that it was the right move, moving from the Big Express to this one, and you're never gonna be 100% sure. But what I do is I think of, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, like for example with buying this car, is that I decide it's not the right thing to do, and I lose a couple grand when selling it, and I figure something else out. It really just comes down to money. Money is the big factor there. So I know that I have a good job, and as much as it would not be good to have to sacrifice a couple $1,000s, it's doable and it won't kill me. I'm still going to have a steady source of income to replace that money. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. And the other part is, you kind of just got to do it. You just got to give yourself the little push, little kick in the pants, and move on. When I quit, I worked at a grocery store for 18 or 19 years. And when it was time to leave that job, it was difficult because I was making quite a bit of money. I was only working 20 hours a week, but I was making almost $24 an hour at a very easy job where I was just stacking bananas and working in a produce department. But so you kind of just, I just kind of had to give myself that nudge. It's time to leave the safety of what you know and go for the unknown, and realize that the only thing that is constant is change. Change happens all the time. And I know, like, for me, the biggest thing, of course, again, is my kids. And I know eventually my ex-wife is not going to need me to look after the kids all the time when they get older. My son's 11 going on 12, and when he's 14, like 2 or 3 years, he's not going to need me to look after him. He don't have to have a 14-year-old being babysat. It's not necessary. So, of course, my daughter will still be young, and so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but that's why I always, even though she's a great person, but there's tense times sometimes, and I'm not always happy with the way things go. Like when she takes the kids and goes to visit her sister for a week at a time without really discussing with me, and just kind of going without taking my feelings into consideration. I know myself to know that I can't let myself just react right away. I gotta think about it, cogitate, and decide what's the best way to handle this. Because if I make rash decisions, or if I say things off the cuff of my, if I just say things without thinking it through, I can say something silly or not really smart, and then it could make her upset, and then the tensions in the relationship that her and I have now will be worse, which means I'm less likely to see my kids as much as I want. Excuse me. So that's kind of what I do. I always have this mindset of you can attract more flies with honey than vinegar. So try to spread around a little bit of honey, and that way less likely to have a problem. Not that problems still won't happen, but it's just less likely. Fear of change. Moving into the van was a big change, and I'm in the position now, if I wanted to move an apartment tomorrow, I could do it. I mean, there's no doubt I could, but I don't really see the need to do that. A big part of dealing with change is what I would say being comfortable in your own skin, loving yourself, and knowing that you have the tools within your personality to weather any storm, and being flexible, ready for possible adverse situations, and just having strength of character to overcome things that may be difficult. And if you have that, you're more likely to not worry about change so much, because things happen and you can get upset by it, or you can just say, that happened, what did I learn from it, how can I move on in a positive way, and not make the same mistake twice. Oftentimes the change is positive, and we say the fear of change, but sometimes change, oftentimes, like I said, change is a good thing. As much as I didn't like leaving my kids, the change of not having to live with my ex-wife anymore was very welcome, and I love being single, and it was so much the right thing to do for me. I have no regrets at that at all. So sometimes change can be a positive thing. Anyways, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good night.